So the people who are dying in the jails in Colorado, it's growing by twice as many. Now it's not the biggest epidemic in the world, but still, you go into jail, that isn't a death sentence. That isn't a place to torture somebody. That is a place to hold somebody either until their charges are, met, to temporarily hold them until they get bonded out, or to punish the people. So you can't tell that everybody that walks into the jail, we're innocent until proven guilty. So there's a lot of innocent people that are going into the jails, and if people are dying in the jail, that would concern me. If I was a father of a child and my child went into jail, I would be nervous with what they're doing with my child. I'd be nervous, and I would stay outside that jail until I got my kid out, assuming that they could be bonded out. Because behind those four walls, what is happening? What is actually going on inside of those four walls? You don't know. You have no idea. Once they take them inside those four walls, it's whatever they want to do. And while the murder rates have gone up, there was okay. So here's some of the stats real fast. In 2011, you had 11 people who died in Colorado in jail, and then in June 2015, you had 24 people who died that year. In the span of 6.5 years, you've had 117 people who have died inside Colorado's jails. And there's a variety of factors. There's a heroin epidemic. Jails are filled with mentally ill people, inadequate training for deputies, private health care companies motivated by profits. And then it says that there's few requirements by the state and the federal laws when it comes to protecting those who are incarcerated. So those are the general reasons. Now they break it down more specifically down here, but there is two stories that I actually want to mention just about how the stats are added. Okay, so if somebody had an issue, okay, and here's a guy right here. So the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office reported that Jeffrey Linus, 37, died of sepsis caused by bacterial pneumonia, but a lawsuit filed by his family in December says he died because of the jail's medical staff denied care. So, okay, this guy, he is put into jail, and then eventually he is taken out, right, put into the hospital, but they pull the plug. They give him a bond because they didn't want to be held responsible. So he wasn't considered dying in jail, even though they killed him in jail. That reminds me of my friend Ronnie Lee Smith from Gallatin County, Kentucky, ran for sheriff as a libertarian. He needed marijuana, needed hemp oil in order to cure his leukemia, his skin cancer. But when he got thrown in jail for possession of marijuana in Arizona, he had a medical card, said that he needed it for his condition. They didn't give a damn. He stayed in jail for about 1 or 2 months, and then when he was in jail, his leukemia came back until it got to a point where it was almost a point of no return, and they did the exact same thing. They dumped him at a hospital, and then they tried to drive him back, and then he had emergency, and then he wound up dying on the way back to Kentucky. So that's fair. That's just. Ronnie Lee Smith didn't hurt anybody. In fact, the crime that Ronnie Lee Smith was running away from was he tried to save his cousin. His cousin, he thought, was being held against her will at a hospital, even though she had killed herself, or she tried to kill herself. But she told him that they were holding her against her will, so he goes into the hospital to go try to take her out. But it didn't, work out to the way that he wanted. But that's the reason why he was on the run. He wound up getting 4 charges, felony charges, because of that incident. And, he pushed the door and he tried to get her out, but then eventually the security guards came back. He videotaped this entire thing. Regardless, he was put in jail. His leukemia acted up, came back, and then they dropped him off. That fucking jail killed him. That fucking jail killed him. Just like the jail killed this guy right here, too. Jeffrey Lillis. A 37-year-old Jeffrey Lillis died of sepsis caused by bacterial pneumonia. Meaning that it was just, it was an infection. There was an open wound and he got infected because jails are dirty and disgusting, and then he wound up dying. So good thing that they're suing, but not everybody has lawyers or know the law or, can actually get any type of retribution or justice when something like this happens, especially if you're poor and, considered a criminal. I think most of society kind of turn their head, just like homeless people, right? Pretend that they're not there. Now, that was one story. Now, it's basically the same thing. Okay, so my bad. Jeffrey Lillis, he died of the bacterial pneumonia inside of it, but then they said it was the jail's medical staff denied care. So there's, some people might say that it was murder. Other people say that it wasn't. The story I was telling you about was Joseph Jaramillo. He fell ill in the Pueblo County Detention Center. So this is in Pueblo. After being jailed on probation violations and a burglary charge, his family couldn't afford a cash bond. While he was hospitalized in critical condition and on life support, then he was given a personal reconnaissance bond, ROR. He was released on his own recognizance and released from custody. Then he died a day later. So Joseph Jaramillo, that is the exact same thing that happened, with Ronnie Lee Smith. And how can we tell? What do we know, right? Go back to that other one. How do we know if they died of negligence or if they died of the bacterial infection? That almost seems like they go hand in hand. It's like, well, even if we were negligent, we weren't malicious. We need to start giving a shit about people. Those are the oppressors. Those are the fascists in jail, and they have to stay on top of everybody and understand. So it's a hard job. I don't know if I could do a job like that because I would feel enslaved to those that I tried to enslave. I would feel like I'd have to stay on top of them for the rest of my life, or stay on top of them the entire time I'm there. That's the only way I could trust them, if I'm on top of them, and then I have to follow them everywhere. It would be a hard job. And but you need, if you are going to be put into that position, I want people that are thoughtful and caring and have compassion, that are decent human beings. If somebody's thirsty, give them something to drink. If they need to use the bathroom, let them use the bathroom. Like to treat people like dogs. Anyways, some more facts, I guess. They said that in 2014, 54 jurisdictions in Colorado reported their jail deaths. Out of the 117 people, so 117 people had died in custody during the 6.5-year period. Of those, 58 died of medical issues such as cancer, obesity, and sleep apnea. So the vast majority of them died of cancer, obesity, and sleep apnea. That's an interesting one there too. Cancer and obesity, I don't know what you could really do with those, but if they, contribute to heart disease, obesity, I don't know. If jail food, you're not getting much food. So cancer, is it like, Ronnie Lee Smith cancer? I don't know. It seems like those would be justified, right? If you just died of old age or just died of cancer, but if they're not getting their medical attention, we have more people in prison in America by population than what the Chinese people do. And I remember growing up in, some liberal circles at Xavier University. And whenever China was brought up, it's like, well, they have human rights violations. They don't know how to treat human beings. China doesn't know how to treat human beings. They throw that shit right back in our face and be like, you all are locking more people up in this country than every other country. You're putting people behind bars. And then people are, killing themselves. That's the other statistic. So 58 of the 117 died of cancer, obesity, and sleep apnea. At least that's what's been reported. The other 48 people took their own lives. Most of them hung themselves with their bed sheets in their jail cells. So 53 people died within a week of being booked. That's even more of a reason to make sure you get your kid out right away. Within a week, 53 people had died within a week. So as soon as they got into jail, they were there for a week, then they existed no more. They ceased to breathe. Their heart stopped beating. And we should remember their names, and they should get some justice. 24 Hispanics died in custody. So there seems to be a racial component, perhaps. 24 sheriffs reported 0 deaths during the period. So there are some counties that aren't murdering their prison population, the people that go into jails. So those are some, statistics. 48 people killed themselves. When you kill yourself, you're essentially saying you see no light at the end of the tunnel. You see no hope whatsoever. So, our jails, it's not supposed to be a Holiday Inn. That's what they like to say. Okay, yeah, you're not going to a comfortable Holiday Inn, but you do need the basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs to be met. Food, water, sleep, shelter, clothing, warmth, the basic necessities. Those should be met. Yes, you're going to go to jail, but you're going to live, right? And actually, that's in our dog-eat-dog capitalist country. If you're homeless, hell, you could just go rob a bank, and now you're getting fed. It's not great feeding. You don't have any freedom, but at least you'll survive, and you'll keep on living. So this is what's going on in Colorado actually mimics the national trend. You had, in 2014, over 1,000 people died in jails across the U.S., which was an 8% increase from 2013. The mortality rate inside jails was 164 per 100,000 inmates in 2014. 11 other states had higher jail inmate mortality. So Colorado isn't the worst. It's not the worst. So that's should give you, you should feel good about yourself, Colorado. You're not the worst when it comes to killing people and to terrorizing the crap out of your inmates until they hang themselves with bed sheets. So, congratulations. Let's see. Sheriff's departments have suicide protocols for their jails. Inmates should be questioned about their mental health intake. Most jails have special cells and smocks for those who are suicidal. Deputies have instructions to monitor those who are at risk for killing themselves. In Boulder County, deputies are trained to watch for signs of suicidal thought and behavior. Boulder County reported 9 deaths. So there are 9 deaths and 6 suicides in Boulder County. So there's a staff psychiatrist in Pueblo County. There's a watcher program just, to make sure what's going on. Essentially, they're saying if you just put people together, it's hard to commit suicide when there's 2 other people in the room. So, that gives you somebody, gives you company, and if you're feeling like, it's just too much for you. So there seems to be some people that are trying to put, mechanisms in place, but ultimately you just need to give a damn. And this is America, and a lot of people don't give a damn. And if you don't know who these people are inside these jails, cells, they love their power. So as soon as you get in there, they'll be yelling at you and treating you like a dog, treating you like dog shit. And you're just supposed to accept it. You're supposed to take it. Even if you're an innocent person, even if you're an innocently accused person, you're innocent until proven guilty, now you're in jail. What if you went to jail over throwing some donuts and then you wind up, getting killed or being negligent, or your, medical conditions came up and you died? Or you were just so distraught about the situation that said to hell with the world and killed yourself. Just if it was just some little tiny petty, especially like pot. I mean, Colorado, it's legal there, so that's good. This doesn't happen in Colorado. People aren't dying in jail for pot, at least for the last 4 years. But there are people right now in the United States that are in jail for lifetime because of their association with marijuana. And that's pitiful. That's pathetic. That's also Nixon, too. Nixon had passed the war on drugs, and I remember reading this 1973 article about Ohio looking to put somebody in jail for 100 years because they found marijuana. So when Nixon did that, he cracked down really hard on marijuana specifically. In fact, that's the reason why he said the war on drugs was passed, so that way the black people and the liberal activists would be marginalized. They could go after the activists, they could go after the black folks, and that's why we got the war on drugs. So the only medical care jails provide is Tylenol and Gatorade, and that's just not constitutional. So they're saying they're not actually taking care of people. Since they are private prisons, they are trying to make profits. They are trying to make money. So why would you want to waste money giving people medical care, especially if they got cancer or some heart leukemia, right? Especially if they got some big condition. So why would you want to do that? Why would you want to actually do that? Okay, so where am I at now? I guess I'll just end off on this last thing. It's bullshit that people have to die. When murder is the worst crime out here. It's the worst evil. You cannot do anything that stops everything that person is going to be to the end. Right? It was like, well, I was living a good life, and then I was walking across the street, and these cops jumped me. They're undercover. I didn't know who they were, but now I'm in jail, and now they've been beating me up and raping me, and so I was just like, I'm just saying that, that's miserable. That's miserable. You're an innocent person being treated like a dog because there's corrupt cops and there's rapist jailers. That's a good point there. With the raping that's happening in jails, especially for the men, I hope it's not as much for the women, but if you were to take all the rapes in the United States, men are getting more raped at a higher percentage. There are more men who get raped than women in the United States if you add the rapes in jail. And that's from other inmates, that's from the jailers, and that's pretty substantial since that's the number one, that makes men getting raped the number one issue, the number one, more men are getting raped than women. That's a concern. Just because you get thrown in jail, and if it's for some innocent thing, now you're getting raped, and people want, and then, if you're behind bars or you're behind closed doors, how do you know what happened? How can you prove what happened to anybody? You'd have to find somebody that would listen, and the thin blue line makes them all cover their own butts, regardless. So where's the justice? Where's the honesty? Where's the decency? I'm glad Bradley Manning is actually getting released here in a couple months. But that's what we're doing with the good people. We're throwing good people in jail for 35 years, and then the bad people who didn't mind killing those children in Iraq, those reporters, what are they doing? Are they in jail? They get punished? No. They still got guns. Probably, might be a general. Might be one of the generals in Trump's cabinet, right? You're a good murderer. You killed a lot of people, so good job. Well, that's an evil fucking person right there. The good person is the one that says, like, yeah, we're at war, but we don't need to kill children. And somebody, needs to say something about this. This is not good. And I know I'm on a tangent here about Bradley Manning or Chelsea Manning, and I'm glad that she's getting released in just a couple months. So good job, Obama. That's one of the best things you've actually done. There's still, Leonard Peltier and Mumia Abu Jamal and a couple other people that are in jail, which Edward Snowden isn't in jail, but he's not going to get a pardon. So Obama could do more. Well, I guess he can't, right? Trump's president now. Barack Obama is gone. We don't have... Oh, my God. Obama wasn't a great liberal or leftist, but give me Obama over Trump any day of the week. Last point I want to make just about parents and their children. I know a lot of people that actually have bad families, and especially their fathers. They don't get along with their fathers. In fact, George Carlin said 95% of the world's problems was because of what men did to their sons. 95%. So essentially, George Carlin is saying all the problems are because of the dumb crap fathers do to their sons, but mothers do bad stuff, too, and women can be, just as messed up by, of course, anybody can be messed up by an abusive relationship. So I wanted to talk about this one story. It was about, it was from Gallatin County. He was actually a really, really good man, LeGrand. Mr. LeGrand, Bill LeGrand. And Bill LeGrand had a child, and his child got drunk one day and was driving down the road and ran into an ambulance. And there was a patient in the back of the ambulance, and they were all on the IV and stuff, and they flipped over, and the body was flipped over, and I think it wound up killing him or like really damaging that person in the ambulance. So his son, was drinking and driving. He committed a crime, and he was being locked up, and he was put in jail. Now, for the people that have bad parents, if you do something wrong or if you're innocent, I would say bad parents wouldn't be by your side no matter what. They wouldn't bail you out. They wouldn't go to court. They wouldn't ask you about the court. They wouldn't help you with the charges. They wouldn't give a shit. But this father, Bill LeGrand, he stayed by his son the entire case, knowing he was guilty, knowing that what he did was wrong. He took the life of another person. It was negligent, right? He didn't intend to, but he was drinking and driving. And but he stayed by his side in the courtroom the entire proceedings until they convicted him and put him in jail. That's how it should be. Is there anybody in this world that would look at that father and say, you should not defend your son? He made a mistake and he shouldn't have done that. But that's your kid. He loves his kids. Of course you should give a damn about your kids, even if they did something wrong. They're still going to need love and support, and then they're going to have to, he's being punished, I guess, for this life being taken away, and that's really sad and unfortunate. And, I think that jail time would probably be a just punishment. I don't know. I mean, it was death. And I'm not going to get into what's, about that case. I just really liked that the father stayed by that kid's side the entire time, and he was a young adult, 20-something years old, so he wasn't a kid. But that was a father who loved his son. And if, if people don't even show up when you're completely innocent, when you're completely guilty, and the father still sticks it out with you, that's a father who loves, and that's a good father. And that's what we need in this world. We need more good people in this world. And the fact that there's so many people dying in jails and in prisons and, in Colorado and all throughout the country, that is a kind of an epidemic, because that's murder. That's negligent homicide. That's something that could be easily prevented, just with some love and compassion. There might be, some violent people that need to be taken down pretty hardcore. But in Norway, the way their prisons work in Norway it's like a university. It is like a Holiday Inn, only better than a Holiday Inn. The idea is you want to rehabilitate that person and get them back into society. And how are you going to rehabilitate them? By yelling at them and treating them like a dog and being crappy to them. And then they're hanging out with all these criminals, so they're getting a PhD in criminology. and then they're going to walk out knowing so many more contacts for their drug business and for whatever it is that they're working on. That's how we're going to rehabilitate people, smash them, treat them like dogs, like they don't know any better, treat them like crap, get them to hang out with a bunch of criminals so they can get a PhD, in their criminology, and so they can make more contacts with other criminals. That's how we're going to get the people who go to jail to come back out into society. That's so insane. That's stupid. That's nobody in their right mind could ever actually believe that. Nobody could believe that. And don't know. I lost it. I was on a roll there for a second. Oh yeah, Norway. So what Norway does, it's like a university. It's got plush greens. They're allowed to go to the kitchen where there's butcher knives, so they could actually kill somebody. A butcher knife. They could kill themselves. They could run away at their own leisure. But why would they want to? It's a nice place, and there's loving and caring environment, and they're trying to get through their sentence so they could get back and be completely free. But in the meantime, they get to build up the trades and crafts and hang out with friends and be human and get that humanity that they had lost that originally made them commit that crime in the first place. And Norway has a very low recidivism rate, so very few people are actually going back into jail. Unlike here, that's all we have is a bunch of repeat offenders. Somebody does one thing, then they just keep getting charges and thrown in jail, and then it's just, it's like a little cycle. And some people could just, keep on getting hit up with meth charges. I don't know. Norway's doing it way better. I think love and compassion, giving a damn. Actually, somebody giving a damn. So yeah, you're a jailer and you don't want to make sure nobody's violent and nobody's running away, but you don't have to be a dick. You don't have to go around just hog tying people up and telling them to spread their butt cheeks and cough and sticking your hand up their butts and raping people. Jailers, you need to stop raping people. Louisville, the jailers in Louisville, y'all need to stop raping people, okay? It's bullshit that there's any jailers that could get away with raping people. And every other fucking jailer that knows about it, that doesn't say a word about it, is just as guilty. They're just as guilty. If I'm a jailer and my jailer work associate had raped somebody, you're damn right I'm fucking snitching on that piece of shit. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. He's committing crimes, and he's not going to commit crimes in my name. So for my own reputation, for my own sake, but also just for my own conscience. My own conscience. And if you have a conscience and you're a parent, you would definitely, you would be there for your child. You wouldn't want them to stay in jail for too long. Try to get them out as soon as possible. And if they did make a mistake, to sit right there next to them in court to make sure, to make sure that people, at least they might say, this dumb kid, let's throw him in jail forever. But then they see the father there. Now they're thinking to themselves, well, what if my kid did that? So it humanizes them. It adds an element, to the culture in that courtroom that otherwise wouldn't have been there. So, Colorado, you need to stop killing your prison inmates. I don't know why it's doubling. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what makes it worse. If anything, I would think that the legalization of marijuana would lessen the deaths or lessen the arrest, which, hopefully would lessen the deaths. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Colorado, but there might not be one consistent thing. It's 117 deaths, right? So compared to the radon, the amount of people that radon kills, throughout the United States, it is a lot less. 21,000 people die of lung cancer due to radon poisoning, which Colorado also has a bunch of, 21,000 per year. And this is 117 over 6.5 years. But it feels like murder to me. You go into jail, and whether you're innocent or guilty, they're supposed to, care about your life. And if you're being like ornery, or if you're being violent, if you're being a bully, I could understand, having to crack down on somebody like that. But if you're just being a human and you're thirsty, I remember I was in a holding cell in Letcher County, and I don't know, I got a bunch of stories, but it was dirty and it was disgusting, and they didn't give a crap. They didn't give a crap about what the people inside there needed. People are sleeping on the floor, the cold concrete, with only a t-shirt, and they weren't getting their blankets, and they would say, hey, I'm dirty. The one guy smelled really bad. He had bad hygiene, and he was like, hey, when are we going to get showers? And he was like, well, I'll get you a shower when I feel like it. And I don't know if he ever got a shower. I got out before he did. But what the fuck? You got to beg to get a shower, but it's bad hygiene, and everybody else has to smell them. So why wouldn't you Let him take a shower. Let him take a shower, man. Anyways. Yeah. So, Colorado, come on. Can't you do a little bit better? Please?